last Wednesday when the state senator from Anoka inserted into a Senate education bill a return of one-day suspensions for the state's youngest students. Okay, the previous policy over the last couple of years has been not allowing this for kindergartners through third grade students. As I read from the Tribune story, but in compromise with the anti-suspension student advocates, the state senate agreed the action could be taken only in the instances of serious injuries or the potential of serious injuries. Jim, it's always a pleasure. For somebody who's listening right now and who's thinking, now, wait a second. These kids are too young. Their brains are too underdeveloped. They don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't face a suspension at this point in their academic career. You say what to those folks?
I guess the times they are changing. I've heard from teachers and parents that these issues are increasing in severity. How can a little kid cause anything? Corey McIntyre testified at the hearing about this. I've been working on this for 2 years because it's a thing. And so just to go back, it was the opportunity to suspend anybody in K3 was taken away except for a partial day in 2023 over concerns of the advocates that it was done racially.
Yeah.
And maybe it was, I don't know, in Anoka that it was that way. But anyway, so they succeeded. And so, but it hasn't worked. So now a child, one parent writes that this kid threatened to bring a knife to poke their daughter, and throwing chairs, pregnant teacher being kicked in the stomach, and like, holy cow, and frequent evacuations of classrooms. Anoka's at 142 class evacuations this school year, including 33 in kindergarten.
Can I just stop you there? Can I just say, when I read that, 33 in kindergarten, that's fill in the blank. That's sad, that's staggering, and that's frightening.
Yeah. And one teacher writes, our schools are unrecognizable due to this mandate. And, and so we all care about these children. We want, Tommy or Susie or whoever to get squared away. But there's no time to have a plan. And then they come back the very next day after, punching a teacher in the stomach or slamming a different teacher's head into a cupboard, throwing a desk, breaking glasses. Quite extreme behavior for a kindergartner. And so, it was hard coming, but I worked with the advocates, as well as the school districts, and it had a skew toward the advocacy side because they just were so worried, and maybe there was racist truth in this. I don't know that, but okay, we'll accept that. But now we have to have a balance and a way to actually help the child, because if they don't have a little bit of time, so they suspend them at 1:00, there's no time to convene any kind of a help group, get the team to get, the IEP team or somebody. And so this will hopefully buy a little time and then also give a little relief to the kids who are in the class and realize that they shouldn't be throwing chairs around either, I guess.
So you brought up race because I know it's come up in this conversation. If a person is listening right now and they're a parent and they're a person of color and they feel like their kids have been targeted before and they have concerns about this, that it's going to repeat itself if they're younger kids, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that, and I respect that. I totally get that. And so that's why we did it so tight, just one day. And on the first time it happens, they have to get a hold of the parents and let them know and work out something. The second time they have to convene a meeting of the team, but they're also going to document all the suspensions that happen by grade and gender and age and race, which is all part of which is current law. We're just referencing that. But I don't think that anybody wants any child to come to harm. And if you have a child who's, black or, tribal or whatever, you want them to succeed as well. And so how do we intervene? You just need a little bit of time. And I hope that in the kindest possible way, how do we help your child thrive? And how do we help the other children thrive as well? So it's been a really interesting discussion, and I do want to thank the advocates for being so cooperative. In fact, at the end of this hearing, pretty much everybody who had concerns about adding back 3 days or the 1 day without guidelines, they kind of signed the yearbook. The legislator sitting next to me, I won't burden you with her name, but she has been very worried about it. She said, "Hey, can I sign the amendment?" Like, yeah. So I went to the chair, sign it. And I went to another couple Democrats on the committee. And I went out to the audience and said, "Hey, advocate, do you want to sign the thing?" "Yeah, I'll sign that." So it's kind of if you want to watch a nice hearing when we adopted this, when we did must have been last Wednesday or something.
Yeah, it was Wednesday. Yeah.
It's actually something that worked, where you can just tell the compassion that people had about this, and how do we. It was really kind of maybe a success story for.
So, what's the status of the proposal right now within the legislature itself?
It's in the Senate Policy Omnibus, so it's alive. It's going to go over to the House, and if you've been watching the House, they couldn't even approve the minutes in one of their committees one time. So, but they did pass out 3 bills. Just so you know, they adjusted the date of the gummies lab testing, and we've got school bus clarification that if the lights are on, you got to stop. So
we're actually getting a few things done.
We passed 3 bills. Yeah, there's no Cesar Chavez Day anymore, so that's the list. Usually, I can't remember the list, but that's the list.
What would change that, Jim? I mean, part of the reason why I have you on is your willingness to answer, make yourself available, and your willingness to work with Democrats. You're a Republican, okay? What would allow us to actually get next time we talk at the same time next year? It's 15 bills have passed.
I think I've been there. I'm in my 3rd decade, Chad. Can you believe it? I was privileged, and people keep sending me back. And the last time they almost didn't. 186 people decided I was worthy of going back. That was the margin. So after I went to 21,780 doors, but I think they need to listen. And I read somewhere on Twitter, which has to be true, but they mentioned that a sign of intelligence is actually being able to change your opinion when you're hearing new information. And I really believe that. And I think people need to listen and accept some new information into their view. And if you stand in one corner, you're not going to get the whole view of the landscape. If you're in a room some office, if you stand in the middle and look all 360, you get a big view. And so then if you're not careful, then they call you names for being non-dedicated to the cause. But the cause isn't the cause helping Minnesota thrive well, helping every child learn, help healthcare be accessible, have safe roads, public, keep not get mugged in your neighborhood. I mean, those are things that people really want. And the only way to get to that is to, I think, get off some of the blind stridency.
You have been very involved in healthcare. You've also been involved in special education in this state. And you also pay close attention to fraud in the state, what has taken place. What is your view on what the governor has offered up so far? And what's your view on this battle to actually have a inspector general in the role this person and this office would play going forward?
Well, I think there's a lot of well-intended effort. The governor, even Mr. O'Malley, who the governor appointed to look at things, said that there's been kind of a softness at the high level on worrying about this for quite some time. And that's my view. I think they just underreported all kinds of things. And in COVID, they wanted to shovel money out, whoever got it. And that was problematic, if you remember the Feeding Our Futures and all that, to a criminal level. But the programs are designed softly. And so the input I've had along the way is to have kind of a strict standard: who gets it, who doesn't get it, draw a bright line. And in the name of humanity, the lines have been blurred. But even who can provide? There was a big scandal about the housing stabilization. It's supposed to be a few $1 million and blew into more than 100 or more. They had 1,800 providers enrolled for 22,000 people. Like, what? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And that back in May with Senator Hoffman and I, we colluded on trying to raise the standards. We set up a criteria. And before you can do anything, you have to demonstrate you can provide the service that you say you want to provide. That was not before a thing. Like, what? And so these kids were showing up. They were young adults who figured this out, and they sat outside the homeless shelter, recorded the guy's Social Security number, and I don't know how they got that out of him, but they did. And then they began to bill. And these 21-year-olds are driving Range Rovers.
Well, can I just give you a couple more?
Notice that.
I'll give you a couple more that just infuriates me. When the report came out about the autism centers and that you couldn't have any oversight on them because they weren't licensed. Okay, so they were able to exist with the fraud. Then when it comes on the last 10 days or so, that DHS, before they would investigate some of this, I believe this was just the Medicare fraud, they thought there had to be other levels of fraud before they can investigate it. How is this possible, Jim? I mean, because it certainly has been amplified, and I've been critical of the governor. I'm not backing away from that. But this has been going on for a while. It just seems like some of these areas, including the work you did with State Senator Hoffman, they should be embraced, and they should have happened a long time ago.
Well, just a little common sense. I think if you have one marketable theme you have, it's like, this doesn't make sense. And the emperor has no clothes, little kid, like, what are you doing that for? Huh? Really? And it's really interesting. The different departments get kind of hunkered into their little systems, and they fight a lot of what we try to do because they got it squared away. No, we're good. Nothing to see here. And they get busy with their systems. And things don't work as well. Look at MNLARS with the driver's licenses and, no, we got this. Like, no, you don't got it.
Right.
There's an article in the paper today about teachers of color. We need more of them, and we do, and I've been working on that. But the department actually made it more difficult by getting rid of a pathway for someone to go from something that's called Tier 2 to Tier 3. Where there are 29% of the people in Tier 1 are people of color, and 22% are people of color. And then there was a path until 2 years ago. You could actually go from 2 to 3. Like you have a degree and you get some good on-the-job training. You've been working 3-4 years successfully. You can move into the path to be a teacher, and they would love it. But now there's only 5%. But that was cut off 2 years ago. What? Why would you do that? Because it's working so well, and it's just the common sense and what a regular person would do, and over some political reason that somebody has, which I don't even understand why that would be a good reason. I argued about it, and got an amendment off the floor, but it did not come back from conference.
Yeah,
it didn't quite make the return trip.
Good stuff as always, sir. I got to jump in because I want to get a little reaction from the audience on the suspension situation. I always appreciate having you on. Keep the good fight, and we'll reach out again.
Oh, yeah. God bless, and a blessed Passover and Easter to all the listeners, too.
Absolutely. Coming up this week. Thank you, sir. State Senator Jim Abeler, yes or no for you? Elaborate. K through 3, if it reaches a level, should a suspension be available, or no, that is too young? That's part of the start of the conversation with the state senator. We branched into other areas. But what do you want to say? Text or phone call. 651-461-9226. I think it has to be yes. I think you have to have this availability with some of the violence that is happening at a very young age. You need to have the oversight. You need to have the principal's office very involved. Maybe the superintendent's office has to be involved. But if you're having this amount of kindergarten conflicts, let alone first, second, and third grade, to completely eliminate the possibility of a suspension for a full day, I think it's a mistake. I get it if you're a parent who feels like your kid has been targeted before. Are you being honest about your kid? Are you being honest about what might have happened? Yes or no, should schools, and this still has to go through the process right now, it's through one committee in the Senate, as Jim Abeler said, but should schools have the ability to suspend for a full day kids in grades K through 3? I'm a yes.